Welcome to episode 3 of the Advisor Strategy Room, where top advisors make better business decisions. Welcome, Travis. Good to see you.
Welcome, Brett. You're looking tan. Where you been?
My wife and I just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary in Greece. So
Wow.
got to spend last week in Athens and Santorini and soaking in a little bit of sun and sightseeing and stuff like that. So
Well, congratulations.
thank you. Excited to be back, though, with you. So
I bet. I bet you couldn't wait to get back.
the whole trip, I was like, man, I just can't wait to get back on the pod.
I'm
with
missing Travis. I know.
Have some fun. So, no, good to be back. Episode 3. So, we keep rolling along here. The topic we wanted to go over today, and I think it's one that we hear from advisors a lot, right? Like you talk to an advisor and it's, well, I'm not unhappy, and they don't explore, they don't look, they don't evaluate, because they're not unhappy. And so we wanted to take some time this episode to kind of talk through maybe some of the risk of quote not being unhappy and what that could be or how that could be affecting your business, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a good episode. As I was kind of putting my thoughts together for this episode, it reminds me of, have you seen that movie, The Internship, with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson? So there's a scene at the end where all the interns from Google, if you haven't seen the movie, definitely check it out. It's hilarious. They go into this little mom and pop pizza place and they're trying to sell this Google advertising SEO to the owner, right? The owner's Sal. And his first objection is, look, guys, we're doing just fine. And, Vince Vaughn comes in his Vince Vaughn way, and he's like, Sal, do you hear yourself? Fine isn't great. Fine isn't fantastic, And so I think that's a sentiment that really kind of resonates with a lot of small business owners, right? Where things are going great. Change can sometimes seem like a daunting task. You don't know where to start, right? But again, back to the episode or back to the movie, fine isn't great.
Right.
So that's a common objection that we get all the time. And so I'm really excited to kind of dive into, number one, how we work with advisors in sort of a non-salesy way to give them an overview of the landscape. Number two, kind of point out maybe some key areas where there could be some hidden costs in just staying put.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to preface everything with the fact that this is not about trying to convince advisors to move. Right? Like talking about, hey, I'm comfortable, I'm not looking, I'm not unhappy. Like our goal in this episode isn't trying to persuade advisors to move firms. It's really about helping them make intentional choices and choosing where they are today versus where they could be. And as so we always say, like sometimes staying put is the right thing to do.
No, exactly. And it comes down to a simple kind of question. Are you staying put because it's comfortable, or are you actually evaluating your firm against the marketplace every year? Is it intentional or not?
Exactly. And so as we dive into like, okay, why do advisors stay, and more so why they don't look or evaluate the landscape?
Yeah.
And look at, we feel fine, healthy wise, but you still go to the doctor, once a year for a checkup to make sure.
We're supposed to anyway.
We're supposed to, right? And, just like with advisors and their clients, they do a portfolio review or a health check a couple times a year, most likely, at least once a year. So it's making sure from an advisor standpoint that they're doing that for their business on an annual basis, so to speak, and then saying, okay, I am good where I am.
Right.
Not just comfortable, but
yeah. And I think there's a number of different reasons why advisors choose not to look around, whether that's loyalty, just unfamiliarity, maybe just some of the interactions with recruiters they've had in the past have been not so great. I was on a call last week with an advisor, and at the end of the call, the firm recruiter was pressuring, get your numbers in. I want to get you an offer, and I want to get you an offer. And so after the call, he calls me. He's like, geez, guy could take me out to dinner first. So, and this is a guy who is actively looking. So I can imagine how if you're an advisor and you get an email and you're curious and you pick up the phone and call the recruiter, how that could sort of turn into a negative experience, right? And now you're in somebody's pipeline and you're getting pitched even harder. So I think that kind of can play a big role into why advisors automatically go to this just no objection when they hear from anybody
Yeah.
in a recruiting capacity.
It's not too dissimilar from if you're contemplating buying a car. You're more apt to get on your computer and look and gather information and things like that versus walking into the car dealership to look at these different cars in person, because now a salesperson is going to latch onto you and they're not going to let you go and you're going to have to deal with that, right? And so and that's where we tend to work with advisors a lot, is like, we're not selling a firm. Like, we're helping them gain clarity and gather information and do that. And a lot of times it's, I'm not looking to be sold, I'm looking to get information.
Right.
So.
And so now is maybe a good point to jump into sort of what that information is that could be useful if you're doing sort of a benchmark of your practice. One that's actually really important that not a lot of advisors are aware of are platform fees. We've seen sort of this migration over the past decade, 5 years, to fee-based wealth management. And all these different firms have different platform fees that the firm is charging the advisor's clients for to be on the platform. I'm working with a group right now that's paying 22 basis points, and they didn't even know that was expensive until we started talking to some of these other firms. They thought that was just the cost of doing business. So again, they had no idea until we started looking around and figuring out that in fact was expensive.
Yeah. And look, but the reality is maybe it's not expensive if it's 22 basis points off of 100% payout. But if it's 22 basis points off of an 85% payout, then absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And
so, and it was 22 off of a 90.
Yeah. And so, because we know firms out there that people will say, oh, they're really expensive, but they don't understand it's off of 100% payout. And when you add up a lot of the costs with firms, it's not that more expensive or that much different when you take payout, admin fees, all this stuff. And so I've always believed that advisors are really smart about where they are today, and some of them just assume that every other firm is relatively the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the most dangerous assumptions that advisors can make, is they're not all the same. They're not all priced the same. They don't all have the same technology. They don't all operate the same. And so making sure that your business is with the right firm to accomplish what you want to accomplish and how you want to run your practice is important.
No, absolutely. And the other factor to that is, are there resources at the firm that you're leveraging to help you meet your goals, right? And if the answer is no, then it's definitely worth exploring, because the resource sort of abundance that firms can vary from, hey, we leave you alone, we do your supervision, to we provide X, Y, and Z to help you as a business owner, to help you gain more clients. And so it's a scale, and it's obviously a sliding scale in cost as well. But if you're sitting there trying to do everything on your own, not getting any support from your firm, and you're bumping your head up against a ceiling, that's a surefire sign that maybe it's not the right firm for you.
Right. So as we think about some of like those, you've talked about the admin fees as a kind of a hidden cost. Like, hey, it's not just the payout, there's the admin fees. I think some of the other things that advisors aren't always aware of is the difference in tech from firm to firm. And especially now, what we're seeing from a lot of the RIA space is what they're doing with AI and tech. They're not as constrained because they don't have, the BD or FINRA in their life per se. And so they're able to do some things from a technology standpoint. And so if you just looked at similar size BDs, they're probably all, dealing with the same constraints, but that doesn't mean that the whole industry is. And so there's definitely some technology advantages. There's advantages to using transition capital to fuel growth and to change the trajectory of your business, and being thoughtful about, I'm not moving being greedy to take the money. But hey, if someone's willing to pay over 100% of my trailing 12 and I can reinvest that in my practice without giving
Yeah, I
up
mean,
any
that's
ownership,
huge. Yeah,
huge.
in a forgivable loan to take that money and, like you said, if you're using it wisely and putting it back into into the business, maybe hiring another staff member or a junior advisor, right? Giving your clients a better overall client experience and helping you to ultimately continue to grow, right? And it's only going to increase your valuation at the end of the day and down the road.
Yeah. And the last, I think, hidden cost, somewhat hidden cost. I mean, none of these are necessarily hidden, but they're not front and center. Is if you're in the W-2 space, is the value of the equity in the practice, right? Like advisors are typically compensated two ways. One, as for being a financial advisor and serving their clients, and then two, for owning a financial services practice. If you're in the W-2 world, you're just being compensated for serving your clients and gaining that ownership. And you and I were talking before the podcast about multiples and offers that we're seeing for advisors. Like you're building a business, if you don't have equity in it over time as it grows, like it could be costing you literally millions of dollars in the
Yeah,
long run.
yeah. In a lot of these captive firms too, the sort of the succession structure is 2.5 revenue at ordinary income, right? And so, whereas in the independent space, we've seen, from a revenue multiple, 4, 5, sometimes 6 or higher at capital gains, and that
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. So, while it is sort of comfortable to be in that sort of W-2 wirehouse environment, right? I mean, I think this started in COVID where advisors were working from home, and a lot of them started to pick their head up, and they're like, "Why am I paying 50% of my revenue when I'm not going into the office? I don't see my staff person every day." Right. And so I think that was sort of the catalyst for a lot of folks, but it still remains to be true. You're
Yeah.
missing out on a ton of enterprise value by staying in that model. And the longer you're there, the harder it is to leave because they dig their claws in you with all sorts of different incentives, right? And proprietary products and things like that that just make it harder to leave.
Yeah. And I think some of these independent firms, like the larger IBDs and really even some smaller firms, like there's a lot of creativity out in the marketplace now where you can be W-2 but own your business, right? Like,
Yep.
hey,
Yeah.
I remember advisors used to always say like, oh, I don't want to be responsible for turning off the lights or paying the electric bill or paying for internet or getting coffee okay, there's firms have gotten creative and they've created U2 models where you actually own the business, can sell it with capital gains treatment versus regular income treatment, but have access to benefits, higher payout, real estate, and not doing those things. Like they're your W-2, but it's almost a hybrid. And they've been able to, I think there's typically you have to be there for a year before the IRS or something. We're not CPAs, so don't take tax advice from us.
Definitely
But
not. Definitely not.
there's some qualifications of time where then it becomes capital gains and it's worth exploring. But firms have gotten creative to try to make it easier for you to advisors to get ownership of their business.
Yeah,
So
and look, I mean, that's just a good example of how sort of the breadth of the amount of or the types of firms that we work with.
yeah,
I mean, we're again not just large independents, we're not just RIAs, we're not just V2 independents, we're everything in between, right? And so that's where I think advisors could benefit from us. Just a conversation with us is I didn't even know this existed
right.
before this conversation, right? I hear that all the time.
Exactly. And I think as staying in line with what we're the topic of this episode is I'm not unhappy.
Yeah.
And I think again, it's understanding this ever changing marketplace. And I've got a few advisors that I'm working with right now who have essentially said, I don't know like that this is where I want to be. Right. Like I don't know. It may be, it may not be, but it's not like they know what they're looking for. And so we're doing introductory exploratory calls like with a large IBD, another one with an RIA aggregator, another one with looking at basically doing 3 or 4 different types of models just to help them solidify, like, am I in the right model? They don't necessarily know which avenue they want to go down. So it's an exploratory process. And then we can dive deeper into the one that resonates more with what they're helping them get clarity on their thoughts and their direction.
No, absolutely. And look, if an advisor is not ready to start having those introductory conversations, like you just mentioned, we're having them every day. And so we can just kind of give them I'm happy to provide a general overview with an advisor of the different types of affiliation models, the different types of payout structures, the different types of technology offerings, upfront offerings, just so they have an awareness of it.
Yeah.
And just want to reiterate that having a conversation with us, don't think like you're wasting our time, right? I mean, we understand that this is a relationship business. That's how we get referrals. Most of our business comes from referrals. And so we want to be true consultants. We want to be educational. We want to help you. If the timing is not right and ultimately that's what you decide, we're not going to pressure you to leave. So never feel, hesitant to pick up the phone, reach out to us if you're ever curious about any of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think like a good place to transition to is the question of I'm not unhappy versus I'm positioned well, right? Like
Yeah.
ultimately, it's not about being not unhappy. It's about, am I positioned well? And so our last episode, we really dove into feel, fit, and financials. And I think you can do that same feel, fit, and financials with your existing firm and comparing that to maybe a couple of strategically picked alternatives to just verify, yep, I'm in the right spot. My clients are in the right spot. I've done the checkup every year and now I move on with my day and continue my business. Or you uncover that there's something else there. So I think that feel, fit, and financials is also a good benchmark to evaluating, am I still positioned well?
Yeah, and I think that's a healthy exercise, and it's it's different from what we see most of the time, where an advisor decides to leave because they've just had enough, right? And you don't ever want to get to the point where you've just had enough.
Right.
And so if you can actually thoughtfully take a step back, examine your business, you have some sort of a structured process that you're looking at it from, it's a lot easier to decide if it's the right time to start looking, or if you're good where you're at.
Yeah. And I think, look, a lot of advisors stay where they are for all sorts of, we've touched on a lot of those, but I think the fear of a transition is also lingers there. And one of the positives that came out of COVID was the clients became more accepting of e-signature and ink transfer. And it used to be you talk to an advisor, it's like, it's going to take you 6 months to transition your book
Yeah, it's
completely.
FedEx envelopes.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
it's a
in good order.
nightmare.
NIGOs.
Yeah. And now, I mean, I got an advisor. I just talked to the firm that he moved to 30 days ago. 95% of the book is moved.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I've been seeing more and more. 30 days.
yeah,
It's crazy.
it's
Even
crazy.
3 years ago, it was 60 to 90 days.
Right. And the IBDs used to give, or most firms used to give transition money to cover the loss of revenue for 3 to 6 months.
Right.
You're really, you might be losing revenue for a month, but you're getting more. The transition packages have gone from 25 basis points to 100, 125 basis points in some cases, right? And so they're
Yeah.
paying more and your downtime is less. And so it's shifting to where it's still work, it's still disruptive, but like it's not like it was five
Yeah. I mean,
years
I,
ago, 10 years ago.
I remember there was a day when it was an advantage if you were putting boots on the ground in somebody's office to help with the transition,
Right.
because it was all literally printing out new account paperwork, putting it in a FedEx envelope, shipping it, getting it back, right? Scanning it in. I mean, it was a real process. And so if you were at a firm that could offer that boots on the ground, that was a real advantage. And now that's pretty much gone away because everything is digital. It's all about data. So
Yeah.
if your client data is up to date and you keep tabs on that, every client meeting, making sure, every little thing is correct, then you're going to have no problem in a move hitting that 30-day metric.
So I think the last kind of area we want to touch on here is, it's not just doing a health check on am I positioned well? versus I'm not unhappy, right? Verifying that that's the case, but it's also preparing and building out a plan B. And like we talk about this all the time, but I mean, look, everybody listening to this podcast can think of advisors at a firm a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years. I mean, every year it seems like something happens. Maybe it's their firm gets acquired, or we haven't seen it in quite a while, but I've been around long enough to get calls from advisors that were told their firm was being shut down, and so anything can happen. Regulatory changes can happen, right? We saw it with DOL. Firms basically said, we are not going to allow brokerage in an IRA, like brokerage mutual funds in an IRA, everything because of, the conflicts or because of the rulings that came down from DOL. So policies change. Things can change that can significantly disrupt the business. And then not starting from scratch, as you said, when things get really bad. It's really starting or having a plan B, confirming I'm in the right place, confirming I'm positioned well, but knowing what's out there that in case something goes awry, unsuspectedly, I know what options I'm really interested in.
No, yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've talked to advisors about is, hey, look, I'm hearing rumors about my firm being for sale. I'm hesitant to start to look around. I don't want to put too much time into it. Maybe one or two firms that you could help me talk to just in case to have that plan B, right? And so that's, to your point, yeah, that's always a smart way to look at it.
Yeah. And I think like in this day and age, like there's rumors out there and a lot of them are garbage.
Yeah, so, most of them are. Especially recently, we've seen a lot of garbage
rumors. It's like, don't listen to the rumors. Always, like if you are a steward of your practice, being thoughtful for your clients, saying, hey, we're not going to move, but I'm going to know that we're in the right place. And if something were to happen, I know which firms I would be looking at, right? Yeah. And so It doesn't take a month of exploration. It's a few phone calls with some firms or just one with us to just kind of
an alignment there, right? From a field fit financial standpoint, just to kind of know in the back of your head that you do have that parachute if you need it.
Exactly. So any closing thoughts on your side of kind of wrapping up the topic and wrapping up the episode of, if you were to summarize?
No, I mean, I think, look, are you truly just doing just fine? I mean, we'll go back to sort of that movie scene, right? Are you doing just fine? Could you be doing better? Is the fear of change preventing you from taking a look around? And I would say, if that's the case, would be happy to have a conversation with you. I know Brett would too, just to give you an overview of the landscape to see, am I missing anything? Am I paying too much for something? Am I with a firm that's aligned for where I want to be in 5 to 10 years from now? If the answer is you're in the best spot, then fine, that's great. But hey, we're not going to sell you. Don't hesitate to give us a call and just have an educational conversation.
Yeah. And I think 3 quick takeaways is not being unhappy is not necessarily the same as being well positioned. So just because you're not unhappy doesn't mean it's not worth a conversation to make sure you understand that you're well positioned. And worst case, that you find out maybe you're not, right? And you protect yourself. I also think, exploring options and having those conversations is not a commitment to moving. It's simply that. And I get, if you pick up the phone and you call a specific firm to have that conversation, you're now in the sales cycle. You're now in their funnel and you're going to be hounded and you're going to be called. And with us and any good consultant out there, like that's not the case. It's a relationship, and we're good talking to an advisor every year for years and years.
Yeah.
So, and then that's just that every advisor should understand the marketplace, right? And what's going on, because it changes every year. Like
right.
Transition packages.
It's hard to be on top of. It's hard to be on top of it when you're working with your clients every day, and just how you give your clients an overview of the markets. It's wise for you to do the same as a business owner.
It's our job to be on top of the marketplace.
Yep.
And what's changing at firms, what firms are doing unique things, what solutions are out there, what transition money packages look like, what multiples people are paying to buy practices.
It's a huge one right now.
Huge. And
Yeah.
so it's our job to be on that. So focus on your clients, focus on your business, but take the time to reach out and have a conversation of, these are my concerns. What should I be aware of? What could be better? And it's just kind of a 1 hour check-in. And if need be, then maybe it's exploring deeper into some of those options to gain further knowledge. So
yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say is, I do have advisors that I'll just have quarterly calls once a year with. They're on my calendar, follow up at this date and time. And we just do a simple, just like you mentioned, a quick overview of the market. Here's what's going on. Oh, hey, I got this email from this firm. Tell me a little bit more about that. Is that real, or is that just kind of BS? Just things like that, right? Yeah. Simple things, again, always educational. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, I know both of us would be happy to take you up on that.
Absolutely. Well, Travis,
welcome back.
It was a close second to Greece. I'm going to be honest with you. It was a close second to Greece. But
well, I enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Travis.
Bye.